My guest today is the founder of Prep Agent. You know him as Joe Juder. Joe, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks, Brandon. How you doing?
I'm doing great, and I'm excited to talk about all the great things you do for our industry. And I want to say thank you first and foremost before we jump in.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It is kind of a nice thing helping people get their career started because it is scary. Because as you know, for most people, this is not their first career. This is a second thing. So we're dealing with people who are a little bit scared, nervous. They don't have that 20-year-old arrogance. Like they took biology 101 and they think they could take over the world, So it's nice to be able to help those people out.
100%. So you do a lot of great things for our industry. I think most people would know you for the work you've done with Prep Agent. Can you just help us understand what that work looks like and what that company does?
So we help people pass the real estate exam primarily, and we do offer some courses, but the real gist of it and the gist of my philosophy and my ability and what I want to carry over into future things I do is trying to make things a little simpler to understand. Keep it concise, keep it simple. I kind of use that as my catchphrase. It's just I want to be that guy where if you don't understand something and you're kind of embarrassed you don't understand, you look to the left, look to the right, look it up online. You're like, oh, I get it. Kind of just like, all right, I understand. Like really break things down in a simple manner in a clean, concise way. So that's what I want to do for people.
I love it. Well, I think you're right. I mean, I think, I think where you pick up, which is a big gap in our industry, is people get excited. They think real estate's sexy. They watch something. They want to become a real estate agent. They go through their pre-licensing, and then there's a little gap. And I think that's where you've done a nice job filling that gap, which is between pre-licensing and then studying for your exam and then taking the exam. You've created a community where people don't have to feel alone, where they can bring some realness to that pre-licensing education as they're prepping, right, for their exam. Is that kind of what your community is all about?
Yeah. I mean, community is a good word. We have people helping each other. The problem with many industries, not just real estate, is experts tend to teach, but experts are not always great teachers.
Yeah, good point.
Like you hear a lot of real estate professionals talk about foreclosure and way to take advantage of certain types of listings or for sale by owners. And they're talking about all these techniques, but this person is still wondering like, what's a contract? Wait, what? Can you back up a second? They don't want to admit that. They don't want to seem like they're not knowledgeable, but a lot of these experts are one, teaching over people's heads, or two, they're teaching for a time that doesn't apply to people now because a lot of these people took their test 10, 20 years ago, or they started building their downline 10, 20 years ago. And somebody jumping in now post coronavirus, I guess we're still in it at the time that we're doing this interview. Those philosophies don't apply to them.
That's a good point. I mean, it's a really, really good point. And again, I think that's why I was so excited to build a relationship with you. Because again, I love the work that you do. There's many things that are challenging in this industry. And I think guys like you do such a nice job to pour into these people. Because ultimately what we're trying to do is to help people get into a great industry that both you and I love and ultimately succeed. And I just put out a video on my YouTube channel this morning, why real estate agents fail. And there's many, many different reasons for that. So you build Prep Agent. How long have you been working on that project?
So I first started teaching exam prep in one form or another when I was, here we go, I'm going to give my age here. When I was 27, 28, I'm 45 now. So let's do a little math here. You and I, how's your math? Is that 17 years?
That's almost, you're going on 20 years, but yeah.
Oh, you had to tack on a few years. Not necessary. But yeah. So that started then, but Prep Agent as you know it actually started about 4 or 5 years ago. So my real success as you know it started when I was 40. So for all those people who think they're too old to get going, not saying I'm super old. I get it. You and I are a similar age. I don't want to put us in that, we're too old category. But there are a lot of people who think, if they don't have a direction at age 40, they don't know where to go because they see all these super successful, good looking people selling real estate and putting pictures on Instagram and it can be intimidating.
Yeah.
But as I started a long time ago, but my stride really hit when I hit that YouTube channel and I started posting lessons online about 5 years ago.
I love it. I love it. And I'll link you guys to Joe's YouTube channel. It's phenomenal. Both of his channels that we're going to talk about, I'll link them in the description beneath this video. Make sure you go check Joe out. He's got great stuff. So how many people have been through your training, would you say? Do you know roughly?
Honestly, it changes so much. I don't want to give you an answer to that. It's hard to say. I can tell you if you look at the YouTube channel, at the time of this, I think we're at like 140,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And our Facebook group is pushing 40,000 people. And it just speaks to how if you're just genuine and authentic, then people kind of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, I mean, I think you're naturally, yeah. I mean, you're putting great things out there and the law of reciprocity happens. So you've helped thousands and thousands of people get into this industry. Let me ask you this, Joe. Of all those people in your group or follow you on YouTube or the students that have been through your program, what would you say would be some of the reasons why people decide to choose real estate as their next career or get into the business in the first place? What are some of the things you've heard?
So that's a good question because as you pointed out, I get people in step one. I like to think you get people in step two because you help people once they pass, get going. I get people as they're trying to pass.
Makes sense.
I guess you could say I'm step two, you're step three because I'm trying to get them past. Step one is when they initially make that decision.
Sure.
But the big reason is freedom. You know, they want freedom. They kind of don't like their job. They don't like what's happening, but it's freedom. That's why you get a lot of people who are teachers or people who work for a boss they didn't like. They often say, well, I want to get into real estate because I want to help people. I want to do good things for the world. And I'm like, all right, come on, Rainbow Bright. Let's get to the truth here. I mean, I'm just like that. You know, I know people want to do the Instagram posts and say they want to help people and all that. I'm like, you're not working in an orphanage in like Uganda. You know, you're helping people buy a home. So what's the real reason? And we get to the real reason, then we could get to the more helping people and doing all those things. But let's talk truth here. You know, and I say to them, they say, okay, fine. You got me. Money. I want to be rich. Okay. Why do you want to be rich? What's the reason you want to have all this money? Well, I want to be able to do what I want. Oh, so it's freedom. It's flexibility. When it really breaks down, it's not because they want to save the world. It's not because of money. It's because they want freedom. And if they really focus on the real reason, then they could start focusing on the money and being a good person and helping the community. But I just feel like when you're really honest with them, the initial reason is I want to be my own boss and do things on my schedule.
I love it. Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. And I would agree with you 100%. I mean, being honest with yourself and being self-aware until you break through that, all the other things are a byproduct based on that truth. And I think the challenge in my experience being a broker and helping agents in that step 2 or 3 win in this business is that the reason they got into the business is the same reason why they don't do good in the business. And so it's a very interesting dynamic. So to your point, which I agree 100%, the world looks at real estate as this outlet of freedom. Be your own boss. There's no accountability. Do what you want. Have your own hours, which are, oh, by the way, the exact reasons why people don't do good in this business. Because as you know, and I think you'd agree, humans left on their own tend to fail and take the path of least resistance. And the more freedom an agent has in this business, the higher chances of them failing. So what would you say about that dynamic of wanting the freedom and flexibility, be your own boss, and how that relates to actually being an agent and left on your own and doing your own thing, and how that relates to the failure rate?
So there's a number of thoughts on that. First, when you speak about this, the expression comes to mind in real estate of the best part about being real estate is you're on your own. The worst part of being real estate is you're on your own.
Well,
you know, that kind of, you could use that on an Instagram post if you want. But, you know, whenever I say that, people in the business like yourself, we're always like, totally, absolutely. Because it is scary, but it is good. So to answer your question about, you know, the failure and the success that comes with it, I always think to myself, they got to start to think business the moment they decide to get into real estate, long before they pass the exam. Something I always hear is the real estate exam is not relevant to what you actually got to do. And it just drives me nuts when they say that. For one, it's like, who cares if it's relevant or not? You got to do it. That's where it's relevant. And I look at it as a barrier to entry. Think of how many real estate agents are in the United States. think of how many more there would be if there wasn't this basic barrier to entry. So one, it's a barrier to entry. Two, there are things on the exam that are relevant, like it's good for a real estate agent to know what a listing is,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's all in that exam that's so irrelevant, or how big an acre is or things of that nature. And two, it creates study habits that could go into your career. Like I tell people, memorize 5 words every morning, 5 words every morning. I'm not just teaching them things to pass the exam, but I'm trying to set standards so they could, to your point, understand how to work on their own and create a schedule. I'm trying to get them in the mindset of create a schedule as you're studying, because after you pass, it's a good thing for every morning in real estate to try and learn something new, kind of follow up on things and kind of keep updated. I believe, I don't know if you agree, but a good real estate agent allocates a certain amount of time every day to kind of follow up on new information, whether it's new marketing techniques, area information in the area, or watching somebody like yourself,
100%.
Watch a video. So when I hear it's irrelevant, I say that person is going to fail. Because not only are they saying this exam is irrelevant, but they're saying that I'm making excuses.
Yeah.
It's a big excuse. The moment they say this exam's not relevant, what you're actually going to do. Successful people don't say that. They just say, I'm going to do this. It's what I got to do. It's what I got to do. And that's it. Period. There's no more.
Yeah.
So when you talk about the success, it's that ability to create that structure in a day. I mean, you and I work on our own. So we've been doing it for a while, and it's not easy. I get it, but you got to figure it out.
Yeah. And that's the thing, Joe, is like, that's where my life's work is built on, because you have millions of people, hundreds of thousands of people getting into real estate with the mindset of freedom, flexibility, which I agree with you. That's what attracts them into the business. Then what is going to create success for them is structure, accountability, and following a system and a schedule. Those are the 3 things they ran away from their corporate world. Though these 2 worlds collide, and for a lot of people causes a mass frustration. How do you think the industry can set a better expectation? Because what I always tell agents is, if you think for 1 second that you're going to win in business as a real estate agent and have all the freedom and flexibility that you want and only work a couple hours here or there, that is a fantasy. And every top agent will tell you it is the hardest business ever. And that's exactly what I would say. How do you think we can set better expectations for people getting into the industry?
Well, you could tell them what somebody told me when I started is, when you get into real estate, you have all the freedom and flexibility you want. You get to choose what 30 minutes during the day you have off, the rest of the time you're on.
Yeah.
And I get it. They don't like that structure, but the positive side is you're creating a structure that works for you. It's not that you don't have structure, but you're designing it. So I think it's just got to be phrased in the correct way. One of the biggest shocks to people, which to you and I and other people who've been in the business a while, we're like, how do they not see this? But at the early stages, you get the question, how do I get clients? And to me, it's like, you didn't think of that before you started to study this stuff?
100%.
Like that's the most obvious thing. Like, does my brokerage give me business? Where do they go? What do I talk to them? And you're like, woof, we got to take a step back, man.
Yeah.
Got to think about this a little bit. And then I feel like there's this moment of expectation where they're excited, and then fear when they realize that reality. But then when they start breaking it down, think about how it's done, they kind of come back to kind of, okay, I could do this. I could get through this a little bit. But for me, setting the expectation is just being super real with them on a step-by-step. And sorry if I'm rambling, but I just feel like so many people, when they talk to people getting into real estate, they talk about these lofty goals and owning $1 million house and expectations. And this goes back to my philosophy. Well, what's step 1? What's step 1 for posting a photo on Instagram? Literally step 1. Like, okay, how do I fill out my bio? All that's getting skipped. And going back to why people fail, they see these big lofty expectations, but they don't know how to open the door,
Yeah, that's a great point. It's a great point. And we're going to talk about the work you're doing in a minute with Agent School to try to help with some of the stuff we're talking about. But, I think you're right. I think that we as an industry, people that pour back in the industry, have to have, just like taking a listing, right? Setting great expectations with the seller that, listen, selling a house is not fun. It is not sexy. It is very hard. It's very tedious letting people in your house. I think industry leaders have to stop selling people on getting into the industry and start setting and serving them at a higher level by setting good expectations to say, listen, if you go shadow the top agents, their schedule is very rigid. They have high levels of accountability. They treat it like an actual business. They run off of a P&L. To your point, I like it. It's what works for them, which is different. They're doing it for themselves versus somebody else, which that's the part that's debatable. But I think as an industry, we need to do a better job of setting better expectations and stop, Joe, trying to convince people, yeah, this business is sexy, unlimited income, which is all true. We need to tell them how real and hard that it is so that when they get in, to your point, they don't have the sticker shock. They don't jump into what I call deception, which is conscious incompetence. This is when all the people fail. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And I also sometimes think how the industry sets expectations. Then I kind of think to myself, wasn't it partly on the behalf of the person getting into this, do their homework? Because there's a lot of real estate agents out there. I mean, I sit there and I think, well, we talked about me being 40 when I started to be successful, 45 now. And I think to myself, well, aren't I adult? Shouldn't I be able to look at this and take a step back? And I guess I'm saying this because there's people watching this and I want them to take some responsibility for this. Because although they may be hearing things of people saying, you're going to be great, you're going to be successful, and you kind of got to take a step back and evaluate, but what's step one? It's not on everybody's plate. It's not everybody's responsibility to tell you, okay, you got to go here, you got to go through the door, because even if somebody does that, there's going to be a point where you got to be on your own and do it on your own.
Great point. And that's great leadership because you're suggesting people leave their victim mentalities at the door and take some self-responsibility to do their own due diligence and don't point the finger. Well, yeah. So that's a really good point, Joe.
I mean, I get things through Prep Agent that just kind of, I want to say disheartening or frustrating.
Yeah.
Like I'll get somebody who write me through the Instagram page or through the YouTube channel and say, do you know a website that could help me pass the exam? And I'm like, really? We're right here. We're right here. Did you look at the bio? I mean, really,
right.
And things like that. It's, what are those people doing? They're not even looking. They're not even trying. They're just immediately writing me, without even taking 2 seconds to look at the bio.
It's a great point.
When those people aren't successful, I look at them and I it's kind of hard, as you know, to respond to somebody in an Instagram post in an intelligent way, especially when you get a lot of messages. But you want to tell them, if you take this mentality, you're going to fail because you have to step back and do a little research on your own. You can't just go to your broker or mentor or whatever the office provides, a trainer, whatever it is, and just say, what do I do now? 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 Even the nicest person, such as yourself, is eventually going to be like, dude, really? Come on.
I love it, man. You are so right. It is probably one of the most frustrating parts about being a broker owner or being a coach. You're right, because we have a whole online curriculum that shows an agent step by step what to do at a listing appointment. We have the entire script book, and then they just want the path of least resistance. Well, what do I do? Well, did you look at the script book? Did you go through the 2 hours step-by-step listing consultation training? No, I didn't do any of those yet. I just want the easy answer. That's a really, really, really good point.
Right. It's infuriating to good people because there are good people who want to help you. There's people who put together quality products, whether it's coaching programs or things to pass your exam or videos. Those people spend a lot of time doing it. I know I'm making us sound like the victim now, but this is our frustration is we put a lot of time doing that. It's not easy. And when somebody just looks at it and doesn't even bother to glance over it, yeah, it's frustrating. So those good people who want to help you all of a sudden get really turned off, because they're just like, you didn't even take a second to put a little due diligence to and ask intelligent questions about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this just goes back to what you said about 5 minutes ago. I mean, this is just more evidence of the type of person that's going to struggle in this business if they're not taking self-responsibility and, oh, by the way, taking action. So let's talk about agent school. So we're talking about, hey, what causes people to not succeed in this industry? You're doing something about it, and I love it. You created Agent School. So tell us what it is and kind of the thought behind launching this new project.
So it's new, and the reason we did it is because I want to see people succeed, at least in the first year. Like, I'm not going to make claims I'm going to make somebody a top producer, but it kind of, for lack of a better term, bummed me out when somebody said, "Thank you, Joe, I passed. I'm so excited." And then within the first year, vroom, they're not in the business anymore.
Yep.
So I wanted to do something about it. So we created a YouTube channel to go over those things of things you need to do, basic steps, setting up your Instagram profile, choosing a broker, real basic stuff. And my hope is to bring people like you on the channel as well to kind of provide insight to them who have a little more knowledge than I do about getting deals and getting stuff done. And I just want to share my experience and create that platform where I share some basic things. Like I could help people out a lot with social media. Obviously, you found me on social media. Other people found me on social media, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram. I want to provide that insight, which I think is valuable in this world where everything's online, especially in the pandemic and post-pandemic. So I want to share that. I want to have people like you walk through some basic steps and lead them towards a path of success, because it just got really disheartening to see people who are super excited and then they are out within the first year. And just to be clear, going back what we were talking about, I'm disheartened about those people who actually try and do some research and don't know what to do. Not talking about the people we discussed who are just like, I failed. I don't know why. Nobody gave me a lead. I don't get it. Grandma didn't let me list her house. What's up with that? Thanksgiving's going to be awkward. Not those people.
I love it. I love it. And I think you're smart in that both Prep Agent and Agent School, I think you have a really good point that admittedly, a lot of people, myself included, want to start getting into lead generation, lead conversion, what works to win in business. And we kind of skip over some of the basics where you're right. I think a lot of agents like, dude, you're talking about converting a for sale by owner conversation into a listing opportunity. I don't even know what a FSBO is. And I don't even know why someone would sell on their own. And you're filling these nice gaps. I think they're great niche programs or the work that you do really fills a nice gap, especially with Agent School, because now you're working with people that pass their exam. And it's all these things that I agree with you are being bypassed. So you're helping people set a nice foundation so that they can get past some of these things that keep them up at night. Is that right?
Yeah. So when they talk to you about a FSBO, because I can't tell them about soliciting FSBOs like you can. But my hope is that when they talk to you, they have their Facebook page set up. They have a LinkedIn profile. They have an appropriate website. They have Instagram if it's appropriate. Talk to them about, you want social media, but you only want to work on the ones you're going to spend time with. Don't like sprinkle everything everywhere and just make it look like a mess. So when they come to you and you're going to talk about FSBOs and you look them up online, which is a big point I make to everybody. I always tell people, whether you like it or not, people are looking you up online. So you better look clean when they find you. When you look them up, you say, okay, for you, I'm going to help this person. Who are they? Okay, they have their LinkedIn profile set up. The spelling's correct. Their image looks clean. They spend some time in creating a decent image. I'm excited to help this person. I'm excited to teach them how to get those FSBOs and convert those leads because they've done at least the basic stuff. Whereas if somebody comes to you and says, I want help, and all they have is the picture of them drinking in Cancun on an Instagram page, for you, you're going to be like, oof, all right, we got some work to do. This may be more than I bargained for.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, I'm interested to see what your belief is when it comes to something that we talk about all the time is creative avoidance. So this is another coaching opportunity for a lot of agents out there who take what you're trying to teach them, but they never get out of actually doing anything. They spend all their days and their weeks and their months creating the sexiest website, Joe, you've ever seen, making sure every button is the right color, the right shape, their business cards are the right texture. And they obsess over this stuff that I call creative avoidance, where they never get past that stage. They think they're a marketer and they forget that they're in the business of helping people buy and sell homes. Do you see that at all with the work that you're doing where people obsess over this stuff?
Yeah, I see it myself every day when I go to the gym. I mean, I sit there and I say I should get healthy, but I spend more time getting the best sneakers and a cool t-shirt and a nice hat rather than working out. Yeah. So you're basically describing me and a million other people with gym memberships.
Yep. Well, because I try to coach against that, and that's why I'm
sure. I'd like to be healthy.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, but I think Agent School does a nice job of that. I think that we just have to, as leaders of this industry, I have probably been guilty of pushing people too hard to do things before they're ready, because I want them to get in action, and I don't want them to get comfortable spending time where they think they're being productive, Joe, when they're really not. And so what is your opinion of that?
So I try and give them basic steps using the workout analogy.
Yes.
Just go with that because I think it works. Somebody like me has a tough time motivating to go to the gym. What's the worst thing you could do for somebody like me? Let me in the gym, say, have at it, see you in an hour. What am I going to do? I'm going to walk around a few times, maybe do a push-up, maybe do some things that, are just useless. Yeah. And then I'm going to walk out, be like, all right, I guess that counts. Not sure. Right. But if you give structure, say, Joe, you're going to do 10 push-ups, then you're going to go over there, 5 minutes on the treadmill, then you're going to go over there and you're going to spin around 10 times or whatever it may be. I'm not a trainer, but you get the idea.
I totally get it.
So what I want to do is give people actual steps of what to do, so they actually know exactly where to go. For example, that Instagram profile, use that as an example. They want to make it look pretty with all the buttons and the bells and the whistles and all that. And I say, well, have you laid out the content? I really try and give them 7 things to post, and they don't have to use these, but if they don't know what to do, this is what you got to do. And I say 1 picture of a property, 1 picture of interior design, 1 picture with a template with a mortgage rate, 1 with the average prices of homes, 1 personal, 1 of you looking professional. Boom. You got 7, bam, just follow
Absolutely.
That. Boom, 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 boom. And I said, is that going to get them all the massive listings? No, but it'll start to create structure and lay that foundation towards that path. So when they come to somebody like you and you're teaching them all this great stuff, they have a clean image, they're ready to go. You don't want to spend time with that stuff. Am I right?
No, I don't. I just, and I love it. It makes a ton of sense. And, I think the challenging thing is, again, where I see so many people go wrong is they tell me, well, Brandon, I can't work on lead generation. I can't make a prospecting phone call because my website, the bio is not perfect yet. So I think there's a fine line. I think you and I would agree that there's probably a fine line between having a nice foundation and obsessing over it, because creative avoidance or analysis paralysis is just, to my opinion, procrastination in disguise. We're avoiding the actual work to do the creative work.
Right. And so I guess that's what I was getting at. Maybe I went in a roundabout way. I'm taking away the creative by giving those 7 steps.
Love it.
Like by saying, here, stop thinking about it. Stop, Googling everything. Here's 7 basic things that you can post. Post a picture of property. If you don't have a listing, I don't care. Take a house in China and just talk about it. But you're going to post a property. You're going to post a picture of your community. You live there. Take a picture. Don't get overly creative, and so on and so forth.
I love it. So
I'm trying to take that creative out of it. And there's templates as well people could use.
Sure.
So sorry to elaborate on this, but to take away that creative, sometimes I say, fine, you want to be creative? I'll give you a week. All right. A week to find a structure, find a pattern, find templates you like. But once that's figured out, you're following that for the next few months and you're not messing with it. And that's what it is. Not just because I'm trying to get them to avoid creative avoidance, double negative there. Avoid creative avoidance.
I say the same thing. That's right. Yes.
But I'm also trying to teach a basic real estate principle.
Right.
Consistency in properties, conformity to kind of design makes values go up. Same with your Instagram profile. If you plan it out, it looks better at the end of the month rather than just chaotic images of you trying to be creative and it just looks like a mess. Have you ever seen somebody who's not an artist try and do a painting?
It's crazy. Yeah.
It looks like a mess. Whereas an artist really has it planned out in advance and the creative process at the very beginning, but once they know their kind of vision, it's on.
So how can people get involved with Agent School? Because I think it's a great opportunity for people when they pass that exam. That I would make the argument, Joe, that's where their excitement and their anxiety is the highest. It's like, okay, I passed. I'm really excited to get started, but I just don't know what to do. So now what? How do they find Agent School? How do they get involved?
It's on YouTube. Just write Agent School, one word, and look for the guy with the hat.
Love it. Real simple.
No spaces, just Agent School. It's right there. It's still fairly new, but it's going to go quickly. And, we're going to do some good things. But like I said, the whole point is I don't want just people to pass the exam. The exam is not the goal. The exam is a step towards the goal. And I'm just tired of people celebrating after they pass the exam. Great. It's a little celebration, but we got to get to people having a fulfilling career.
I love it. I love it. What's the vision long-term for Agent School? Where do you see this growing to?
Just more of that, just increasing the content and giving more ideas and more philosophies of how to get your business started. I want to just focus on that. I'm not trying to, what's the word I'm looking for? Get out of my lane.
Sure. Yeah.
That's why I want to bring people like you in. That's why we're talking now, because I'm fully aware of my limitations, but I'm also aware of what I do well. So I'm going to just do more of that same, explain the basic things in a super simple manner. For example, you said, what's a FSBO? Don't be surprised if I come out with a video, just a 2-minute cute cartoon-like video that says, this is what a FSBO is. I'm not going to get into analyzing it and how to solicit those and all those kind of things. I'll leave that up to you. But at least when they come to you, they're like, oh, I know what Brandon's talking about. It's that thing with the video and the guy in the house and, and the seller who put the sign in his front yard. And
That's great. That's smart, Joe. I love it. And so
I just feel like that's missing. I just feel like,
me too.
Like one of the famous ones that I love, ask an agent. I challenge everybody to do this. What does CCNR stand for?
Right.
And they don't know. You will go to different areas and they'll be like California condominium ramification rules, condo collaboration, they will give you every answer with the utmost confidence they possibly can. But even though all of them, they know they don't know what it means. And they would love a little video where they could be like, hold on one second. Okay. And they got the answer and they could kind of say it. I mean, you laughed. You probably heard that too. CCNR, like a million different answers, know?
That's so good, Joe. I love it. I mean, the way in which you teach is so cool. It's very creative. It's very, it resonates, I think, with a lot of people because you make it fun. And it's great. So let me ask you this. If you went back and started your career over again, let's just kind of go back to when you were 27 years old again, right? What advice would you give yourself knowing what you know now?
That's so funny. I asked so many people that question. I never actually thought about it myself in the deep way. Yeah. Way to flip the script, Brandon. So when I started, I'm actually, to be honest, I'm pretty proud of what I did. I had a good vision with it. And the things I did was I was extremely consistent. At the time, the office I had a very strong up desk. Okay. For those guys who don't know what I'm talking about, some offices you could sign in and be able to stand in the front and welcome people in. And I sat there and I took calls, people in. I worked on my internet presence. For the time wasn't much. I did a lot of open houses. I networked a lot. So I did a lot of those things. So if I could do it again at the time, I probably would have manned up a little and did a little more of the cold calling, a little more of the solicitation. It's uncomfortable at networking events because what I was doing was good, but it was more the passive approach because I was a little intimidated. And it worked. I got my deals, but only because I did so much of it. I did open house after open house. If there was and they said, maybe you like this philosophy, maybe you don't, works for some people, but I worked really hard, but just in the passive way. So what did I do? Every agent who needed somebody to sit at open house, I did whatever I could to go to that open house and sit it for them. And I would go there and I would sit at the open houses, be ready to go, smiling, learn everything you could. But if I could do it again, I wish I kind of took a deep breath and took on some of the more aggressive tactics, and I probably would have been a little more successful. But said I had success because I did the passive tactics so much. Now, keep in mind, the internet wasn't available to us then as it is today. It's not as strong of a medium. We're talking, what do we say? I was 25
years ago. Yeah.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
MySpace.
Right.
So.
No, it's great advice. It's great advice. And what I always tell my students is like, you get in life what you have the courage to ask for. So you'll see the people winning at a high level are asking for things that they want. I think the debate is how you go about asking those things, and we'll save that for another episode. So Joe, listen, man, this was a lot of fun. I really appreciate all the work that you do. Again, I'll link all of your social profiles. Go follow Joe on Instagram. make sure you check out both of his YouTube channels. He's doing great work to pour back into this industry. Any last pieces of advice you would give to a brand new real estate agent, Joe?
Yeah, start creating your structure now. The moment you want to get in, just like we talked about, start creating your plan, start creating your day-to-day, even if you're just studying. Stop this mentality. It drives me crazy of, I can't do anything because I haven't passed yet.
Oh,
So if you need to, the first thing you should do is learn, once you want to get in the industry, what's a licensed activity, what's not. Because when people pass over and over again, they think to themselves, man, I could have done half this stuff while I was studying. Because when you pass, you want to be off and running. So people who are starting out, don't make excuses not to do something. If you believe you can't do it, look it up. If you really can't, then don't do it, but don't just assume. And the biggest thing is that structure of studying for your exam, which will carry over into that beginning stages of practicing real estate.
It's great advice, man. Well, Joe, thank you so much, man. I think I'm excited to continue to build our relationship and do future work together. So I appreciate you jumping on with us today.
Thanks, Brandon.